"Sir, you need to leave." The words broke through the calm of the moment like glass shattering. Marcus Thornfield looked up, startled. A young waitress stood beside his table, her voice soft but urgent. Her name tag read Sophia. Her dark eyes carried something he couldn't quite place. Fear, maybe even a warning. Just seconds before, everything had been perfect. Marcus was about to close the biggest deal of his life. A $200 million acquisition that would make his company the top player in artificial intelligence. Across from him sat David Chen, the quiet genius behind Chen Technologies. After 18 months of tense negotiations and sleepless nights, the contracts were finally ready. The papers lay on the table between them, waiting for 2 signatures and a toast. Marcus lifted his glass of red wine, smiling. "To the future," he said. Chen nodded, raising his glass in return. But before they could drink, "Sir, you need to leave. Now." Marcus blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, what?" Sophia's hand shook slightly as she reached for his glass. "Please. Trust me. You have to go, right now." Chen frowned. "Is there a problem?" Sophia hesitated, glancing toward the kitchen. "Sir, please. It's important." Marcus felt a wave of irritation. This was not the time for interruptions. He'd spent too long building this deal to let a nervous waitress derail it. "Whatever the issue is," he said smoothly, "management can handle it. We're in the middle of something important." But Sophia didn't leave. She leaned in closer, her whisper barely audible. "Your wife knows. She's walking in through the front doors, with a lawyer and 2 FBI agents." The room seemed to freeze. Marcus stared at her, his mind suddenly spinning. His wife. The FBI. That couldn't be real. Caroline was in the Hamptons. She'd called him that morning about dinner plans and the gardener. Everything had been fine. Except now it wasn't. A memory hit him hard. 3 months ago, the offshore account he'd used to hide profits from the Henderson deal. His accountant had sworn it was safe, legal, untraceable. But suddenly, it didn't feel that way. "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus said, but even he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Sophia's expression softened. "There's a service exit through the kitchen," she said quietly. "If you go now, you've got maybe 5 minutes. Maybe less." Chen looked from Marcus to Sophia, his brow furrowed. "Marcus, what's happening?" Marcus forced a smile, though his heart was pounding. "Nothing," he said tightly. "Just a misunderstanding." He turned back to Sophia. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm not going anywhere." She straightened, a sad understanding in her eyes. "I tried," she said softly. "I hope you know that." Then she walked away. Marcus turned back to Chen, desperate to regain control, but Chen's expression had already changed. Marcus reached for his phone, trying to keep his face neutral. "Maybe we should reschedule," Chen said carefully, watching the tension unfold. "Absolutely not," Marcus replied, forcing a steady tone. "Everything's fine. Just some restaurant mix-up. You know how these places get." But even as he spoke, the energy in the room shifted. Near the entrance, voices rose, calm but firm. The maitre d' was speaking quickly, trying to manage something or someone. Then Marcus saw her. Caroline. His wife of 15 years stood at the door, poised and flawless as ever. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, and she wore the Chanel suit he'd given her for their anniversary. She looked every inch the society wife, graceful, elegant, and furious. Behind her came 2 others, a tall man in a gray suit with the unmistakable posture of a federal agent, and a woman with a leather briefcase and the cold efficiency of a seasoned attorney. Marcus's first instinct was pure survival, to run. The kitchen exit Sophia had mentioned flashed through his mind like a lifeline. But pride held him still. Pride had built his empire. Pride wouldn't let him flee now. Caroline spotted him immediately. Their eyes locked across the dining room. In that instant, Marcus felt his entire world begin to crumble. The penthouse overlooking Central Park, the Hamptons estate, the villa in Lake Como, the jet, the influence, the respect, all of it slipping through his fingers. She walked toward him, flanked by the agent and the lawyer. Conversations around the restaurant fell away, replaced by uneasy silence and curious glances. Marcus, Chen murmured, half rising. I'll handle this, Marcus said quietly, surprised by how calm he sounded. Caroline reached the table. Her familiar perfume arrived a moment before her words. "Hello, darling," she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Caroline," Marcus replied smoothly, standing out of habit. "This is unexpected. I'm in the middle of a business dinner." "Yes," she said coldly. "I can see that." Her gaze flicked to Chen, then back to Marcus. "I hope you're celebrating, because this is the last deal you'll ever close as a free man." The restaurant froze. Forks stopped midair. Every eye turned to their table. Marcus lowered his voice. "Perhaps we should talk somewhere private." "Oh, Marcus," she said with a bitter laugh. "Privacy is one luxury you don't get anymore." Her composure wavered for the first time, anger and hurt breaking through the surface. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That you could hide behind fake companies and secret accounts while I just smiled for the cameras?" The federal agent stepped forward, showing his badge. "Mr. Thornfield, I'm Special Agent Williams with the FBI. We have questions regarding your financial dealings with Henderson Industries and several other entities. You're not under arrest, but we need you to come with us." Marcus felt the room closing in. The walls, the lights, the people, all pressing in on him. This couldn't be real. Not here. Not tonight. He turned to Chen, searching for some trace of support. But Chen was already packing up the contracts, sliding them back into his briefcase. "I'm sorry, Marcus," he said softly. "I can't be involved in this." And just like that, the $200 million deal vanished. Marcus turned back to Caroline. Her eyes no longer held rage, just something colder, final. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Long enough," she said. "Long enough to make sure everything's documented. Long enough to make sure when you fall completely." The lawyer stepped forward, handing Marcus a folder. "Divorce papers," she said crisply. "And immediate freezes on all joint accounts and assets. Everything's been locked pending the federal investigation." Marcus took the documents with shaking hands. His empire, his entire identity, now reduced to paper and signatures. For the first time, he thought of Sophia. Her quiet warning. The 5 minutes she'd tried to give him. He could have walked away. But he hadn't. Escape to what? A life on the run. That wasn't living. "I want to talk to my lawyer," Marcus said automatically. "Of course," Agent Williams replied. "You have that right. But first, we need you to come with us." As they guided him toward the exit, Marcus caught sight of Sophia near the kitchen doors. Their eyes met. She didn't look angry or triumphant, just quietly sad. She had warned him, given him a chance. And he'd chosen pride instead. Outside, the cold night air hit him like a wave. Flashbulbs exploded around him, reporters already waiting, cameras clicking. Caroline had planned everything, down to the last devastating detail. Sitting in the back of the black federal car, Marcus stared out at the glittering skyline. Manhattan shimmered like a mirage, beautiful, distant, untouchable. He thought back to that single moment before Sophia's interruption, when the world had still been his. When the future had looked golden and endless. That future was gone. All because he hadn't listened to a waitress who told him to leave. The investigation dragged on for 6 months. They uncovered everything, the offshore accounts, the fake records, the bribes disguised as consulting fees. Piece by piece, Marcus's empire disintegrated. Former allies vanished. Board positions were revoked. The penthouse was seized, the jet sold, the art collection auctioned off to strangers. Caroline divorced him and took half of what remained, though that turned out to be far less than either expected. She moved to Paris, started fresh, and never looked back. David Chen sold his company to one of Marcus's competitors for $300 million. The deal Marcus lost became a footnote in someone else's success story. And Sophia? He learned about her later, reading a small feature in a newspaper from the prison library. She'd been working at Leonardine to pay her way through law school. She had recognized Caroline from the society pages and overheard enough in the lobby that night to piece together what was coming. She tried to warn Marcus, not out of loyalty or pity, but because she believed everyone deserved one chance to do the right thing, even the guilty. Sophia graduated at the top of her class and became a criminal defense attorney, specializing, ironically, in white-collar cases like his. Marcus stared at her picture in the paper for a long time. He thought about writing to thank her, but what could he possibly say? She had tried to save him, and he'd ignored her. That was on him. The prison years weren't unbearable. 3 years in a minimum security facility felt more like a hollow retreat than a punishment. But the real sentence wasn't time, it was regret. Every night, he replayed that moment at the restaurant. Sophia leaning in, her voice low and urgent. The choice sitting right in front of him, run or stay. He wondered how life might have turned out if he'd listened. Would he have escaped? Would the FBI have found him anyway? Would it even have mattered? He would never know. All he knew was this: when someone tells you to leave, maybe, just maybe, you should listen. Because the deal you save might be your own life. Years later, after his release, Marcus saw her again, purely by chance. It was a quiet morning in Brooklyn. He lived alone now in a small one-bedroom above a coffee shop. As he stood in line, ordering his usual black coffee, he heard a familiar voice at the counter. Sophia. Older, more confident, dressed in a neat blazer. She was laughing softly with a barista, a briefcase at her side. Marcus hesitated, unsure whether to approach. She turned, and for a moment, their eyes met again. Recognition flickered, followed by the faintest smile. Not pity. Not judgment. Just understanding. Marcus smiled back, a quiet nod between two people who had once shared a moment that changed everything. And for the first time in years, he felt something unexpected. Peace.